Good afternoon, everybody. This is going to be a little bit of a departure from my normal fishing video. Jason Class from Tekaratalk put out a video recently I saw on Facebook and talking about his fly tying desk and encouraged others to share their fly tying areas, stations, whatever you want to call them. So I thought that's what I would do today. Before I get started, I'd like to give a big shout out to Jason. Several months ago, he invited me to do a podcast and talk about, the method to my madness as far as why I have so many rods, what goes through my pea brain when I'm thinking about getting another rod, in hopes that others can, learn, gain insights into some of the things that you might want to consider when purchasing, whether it's your first rod or your, first backup rod, or you're just curious as to why I have so many rods. But we talk about the things we like and the things we dislike, what our favorite rods are, the thoughts that go through our mind when we're choosing another rod. So I put a link to that in the description if you want to take a look. But he went through a lot of difficulty solving some technical problems that we had with the audio and things like that. So thanks, Jason, for inviting me to do that. It was a lot of fun. So now on to the business for today. I'm going to talk about my fly tying desk. I'll put up some individual pictures. I don't have the luxury of having somebody holding the camera for me so I can open up drawers specifically and give you close-ups in them. So I'll just throw up some pictures as I'm talking as well. But this desk behind me, it's 4 feet wide, 2x4 desktop. And it's a separate hutch, and I've made several additions to it as I've had some growing pains over the last several years. Right now I'm in my shop / garage. In the previous house it was in my basement, and right now I'm kind of at a crossroads of what I'm going to do with the new house. I may refinish this whole thing, I may start over, I may use my office furniture in the house in order to convert that into a fly tying stuff since I'm retired, and I've got Oni here whining, wanting attention, big spoiled baby. So one of the things you'll notice right away is the white portion here. I'd like to say I was thinking ahead when I did that, but actually when I made this, and obviously it's a dark stain that I used with urethane, but I actually had a bottle of head cement that spilled and I didn't know it. Left the room, came back several days later. I could smell it obviously, but it had spilled there and it ate away the finish on my desktop. And so I'm good at covering a lot of wood making mistakes. So I sanded down that portion as well as the drawer and painted it white, just because it, obviously it makes it better in most instances for the background for when you're tying flies. And I should mention, I do have one little light here, little LED light that I use. I actually did just buy a magnifying ring light because the eyes aren't what they used to be. But I also wanted more light being out here. It's a little different setup than I had at my other house. So first off, I don't know if you can see up top, I've got several plastic containers up here. So I've got everything, spare flies. This has got a lot of foam pieces. So when I'm, putting together an assembly line of materials, I can make all the pieces parts first, and then I just store them up there for when I want to go through and make a bunch of flies. But I've also got spare flies, kind of my fly warehouses up there, big streamer box, and I've got a bunch of pheasant tails up there that Oni and I have collected so far this year. So in this first cubby right here, I've got a gallon bag. Before I even started with Tenkara rods and fixed line fishing, I made all my own leaders. So I have a gallon bag full of spools of all the tippet and leader material for constructing tippets, or constructing leaders and lines. And in that little box there, the little container, I have just spare tools, UV stuff. It's just a little tool caddy of excess stuff that I don't keep on my tying desk that I'm not using ordinarily. The center cubby up here is a mess. I've got a variety of fly boxes, and most of the flies, honestly, are ones that I tied for my Western fly fishing rod and reel style. Not so much Tenkara flies. Obviously, I use all types of flies when I'm using a fixed line or a Tenkara rod anyways. But I have gone through the years, like everybody does, of what fly boxes you like over time. And so I have various hatches and by life cycles and things like that for all the variety of bugs that we deal with as anglers. And then in the other cubby up here, I've got pheasant skins, Hungarian partridge skins, as well as numerous quart-sized bags of flies that, of feathers that I've collected so far this year, of sharp-tailed grouse, pheasants, and Hungarian partridge as well. So I've got purchased skins as well as feathers I've been collecting on my own. And that's one of the things I enjoy about fly tying, and I'm transitioning to using as much material as I can source myself with all the birds. And okay, so on either side here, I've got two little shelving units, little toolboxes or gadgets there. And I have just a variety of stuff from some crystal flash, yarn materials, beads, heads, weighted head style things for again, a lot of the Western stuff that I've done in the past. And rubber legs, all kinds of different materials and all in those two drawers. Things that don't really get messy or can get lost in some of the other places. So in the center console, I've got a variety of miscellaneous stuff. The main thing is the two compartmented boxes that I have for brass beads and one for tungsten beads, as well as some overflow dubbing. And I've got some leftover hook boxes that when I make gifts for people and give them flies, things like that, I use the empty hook boxes for those. We'll start over here on this drawer. I've got all dubbing material, and again, I'll show pictures of that, but just everything, all the naturals and a lot of scud dubbing. Not all the dubbing that I have, I've got some others as well. I've got two drawers, one on each side here, one up here and one here on hooks. Kind of this one over here, I'll start with that, I guess. And that's all my Dairiki hooks from when I first started or resumed tying flies a number of years ago, and I bought all assortments of every hook style and size, and Dairiki were sufficient quality and cheap. And I haven't used them a whole lot lately as I've got into more Tenkara specific barbless hooks specifically. So I like firehole sticks, I like fulling mill, a lot of the Dragontail fly hooks as well that are in that drawer. So and then I've got some overflow Dragontail beads because they were on sale recently in another drawer. Down here, I've got a variety of flash and stuff. And this is one thing I was going to share with folks. I saw this tip, and it's a mess. I've got some Flashabou that's gone crazy, which is why I gravitated to using these kind of milkshake straws for keeping things like crystal flash in. So it's easy just to pull out a tip and pull one off. So it's convenient and much less messy than the remainder of that drawer that I haven't finished organizing yet. On this side, so I mentioned the hooks in this drawer, and here I have a bunch more dubbing. So I've got cards, I've got Antron yarn, crystal flash, little packets that are all organized in there. And then in the bottom drawer, I've got a big mess. And a lot of that is my yarn. So I have all the little deal of wool yarns, and I've got egg yarn, things like that in there. So kind of a jumbled mess, hare's mask, all kinds of stuff. Okay, so then in the center drawer here, one of the things you'll notice, I have a magnetic strip across there, so as I'm tying flies, and I can put them all up there if they need to dry for head cement, or I just want them out of my way if I'm knocking them off my vise pedestal, that sort of stuff. I also use this little rotating deal. It's just styrofoam layers, and you can hook the flies on that. So I'll use that when I'm, in mass production mode as well. But in this drawer, it's a wider one, obviously much thinner that I intended, and I use it for long items. So store-bought pheasant tails, which I won't have a whole lot of use for unless I want to use some of the dyed colors. I won't do the dyeing myself. But I've also got other large things, sheets of foam, and whether they're big capes, things like that are too big for some of the other drawers. And that kind of leads me into this white drawer down here. And this is all of my, basically, dry fly hackle. So I've got capes, I've got saddles, variety of big mid-saddle, because I like tying small flies. So all my, I guess if you want to call it expensive, feathers are in that drawer there. So that kind of covers the drawer. Now what you'll see on the two sides here, I think you can see, are two hinged wings, I guess if you want to call them that I added on to this thing as I started accumulating more fly tying material. So it's just pegboard, and I've got marabou, and mostly on this side is all marabou and tailing material, things like that. On this side, I've got a lot more of the hair, as well as CDC, bucktail, and zonker strips and things like that. I've got goose and turkey biots up there as well. But I'll show some pictures. On the back side of each one of these, I put another board and drill little holes in them for a bunch of dowels. So I have all my lines on the back side of this little wing over here, and on this side I have it set up for all my tippet material, so that keeps all my spools organized and kind of out of sight. So one of the other additions that I made, a kind of an afterthought, and I'll turn the camera a little bit better on that. So as I made this little flip out shelf, and obviously not finished yet, but I have all my spools of, most of it anyways, of thread, wire, tools. I know Jason mentioned, as well as others, tie-right spools. They're my favorite as well. So all the general things, markers, dubbing wax, hair stackers, glues, head cements, whip finish tools, all that kind of stuff are in that little flip out shelf. So one other thing that you can't see right now is down below, along the width of the desk, I have a shelf that's about half the depth of the shelf, where I keep a couple big things. One is my travel fly tying kit, and the other is a little briefcase sort of thing with all my spare spools and reels that I use for my Western fly rods, along with a big foam cutting thing. It's a paper cutter, and I also have a duffel bag, or kind of a dry bag, of all of my Tenkara rod sleeves and socks that I seldom use, or at least I don't keep them on the rod, since I have the rod rack inside the house. So trying to think. Oh, one other thing worth mentioning here is on my vise. What I did is I have a pedestal vise, but it's not connected to it. Just because a lot of the larger flies that I would tie in the past, have put a lot of tension on them, and I had mixed feelings about the pedestal stuff. But I drilled a hole in the top and screwed it in from the back, so it's not going anywhere. But it's far enough forward where I can get things out of the drawer and all that. And in my portable fly tying kit, or my travel kit, I have a spare vise that I use if I want to go inside and work on a certain particular pattern inside. I just keep it stocked with some basic materials. So one of the things that I'm thinking of doing, I mentioned that I'm at a crossroads as far as whether I want to continue building on this, refinish it. If I do ultimately want to have all my stuff in my office in the new house, so I may refinish this so it kind of matches the rod rack and that sort of stuff, and of course, finish this shelf and the little wings. But on the sides of the hutch, I'm going to build additional cubbies in order to store all my fly boxes and those little storage boxes that are up on top. I just like more of a clean feel to things. Again, things are different since I've moved, so things are a little bit chaotic at the moment. So I may add something behind those wings, little cubbies, kind of like this, that I'll just screw onto the sides. But I guess the major decision will be whether I want to refinish this whole thing and make it work, put it in the house, or start out, with something different inside the house. So that's it in a nutshell, I guess, or maybe not so much of a nutshell. But I hope you enjoyed the little tour of my fly tying desk. Let me know what you think. If you have other ideas on how I can make things better, I'm always interested in how other people do things. So thanks for watching.